we go.
Hey
Round
there.
2, baby.
What's up, everyone? Welcome back to another episode of In Black and White. I'm Rick Lockhart II.
I am Ethan Michael, the first.
First of his name, leader of his pact. Were you a Game of Thrones person? Tell me you're a Game of Thrones person.
No, I tried to get into it, but I got bored out of my mind.
Oh, no, Ethan. This relationship has to work better.
Well, to be fair, most shows bore me nowadays, so it's okay. Rick, what are you focusing on?
Well, there's some things going on here, and I'm not too sure why I'm getting some feedback or a continued stream of our conversation, but we got new technology, new equipment over here. So,
do you by chance have YouTube open on another window?
That possibly could be it. We'll check that out in just a second, but
we don't want any problems during this.
We got new equipment too.
We want no problems.
And you know what? That's actually what it was. I'm in my headphones like, why do I hear this conversation playing again? What's happening? No, we just got this new equipment. Hey, everyone. Thanks again for tuning in on another episode. We appreciate you being here. We're doing this to ourselves again.
Is your head hurting yet? Because mine is.
You know what I want to say, but I'm not going to say it. I'm going to leave it for our guests to say. However, we're covering this topic yet again of those that support Trump. We have an additional guest joining us too as well, and we'll get into that in just a second. But let's start with this, Ethan. How's your week been?
It's been really good. I've been doing my best to, prepare, doing some training so I can handle these guys and make sure I'm ready to go. So hopefully,
let me tell you my preparation.
This time we do have a fact checker in the audience, and I'm going to be holding anyone accountable who throws shit out. So last week, I think I did pretty good, but this week I'm going to be hitting even harder, and I'm looking forward to it. But I expect the same in return. People watching, yes, chances are most of our audience is left-leaning, but if you see me say something that's incorrect, I ask you to call me out on it. That is the only way we're going to get the best information possible out there. So if I make a mistake, call me out on that shit. If Rick makes a mistake, I can't speak for him, but I want you to call him out on that shit too.
I'm really here just to ask questions, Ethan. Hey, and speaking of calling, we do have the opportunity for you that are watching, those of you that are watching, to call in and talk to us directly. The number's down there at the bottom of the screen, so make sure you take advantage of that a little bit later on. And if you are watching this on Facebook, click that YouTube link. Join the conversation on YouTube. We really would love to have your comments and your participation over there on YouTube. While you're there, if you haven't done so already, please make sure to like the video, share this on your social media platform, subscribe to our channel as we're continuing to build our network here in our channel.
Yeah, all the good things. So this week, what we have is 2 Republicans and a conservative / libertarian. Although I'm going to give him a hard time. Because to me, I just think he's a Republican undercover. But I shouldn't say.
I'm pretty sure Katie is not right now. Katie is not. She's going to come on here. She's going to be mad because we keep calling her a Republican, and I'm not sure. I don't think she is.
Oh no, I was talking about Angelo. Katie is a Republican. Angelo is a conservative libertarian. But I'm going to call him Republican.
This is what's going to happen.
I'm sorry. I'm not going to call him. He knows how to identify himself. Anyway, are you ready to get our guests on board and start the show?
Let's go ahead and get the conversation started. Wait, before you do, I do want to say one thing publicly. I want to first say a huge, heartfelt thank you to you, Ethan, for your organization of that GoFundMe. I greatly appreciate that, and for the people who have reached out and who have even donated. We have been dealing with it, or struggling with some difficult times right now financially, and your genuine care and concern, I greatly appreciate it. Thank you for that. I don't think that my story is really any different than a lot of people, especially a couple of people that are on our panel today that are joining us as well. But there are great people out there. There are resources out there. We're still fighting to get some of those resources. But a big thank you to you for organizing that, man. Thank you. I appreciate it.
Hey, of course. And you know what I should have done? I should have put the GoFundMe in the YouTube description. So you know what? I'm going to do that right now. So if you can give Rick and Al a hand, click the link in the YouTube description. It'll take you to the GoFundMe, except apparently it doesn't want to update right now. So give me like 1 second.
And for those of you that may not know, this was Ethan reached out, and it's a big chunk of like pride that I'm fighting right now, along with maybe some tears, but we'll keep that to myself too as well. But again, I appreciate it.
Of course. All right. So without further ado, let's start with our first returning guest. Returning guest. Katie, how are you?
Oh, hi. I'm doing good. How are you? Sorry, but yeah, I'm doing all right.
Katie has made sure to get her face nice and beat for camera. She is ready to go, and she has asked that we allow her to finish the comments that she's saying and not cut her off. So, Katie, I got you this.
I don't sound like a parrot. Okay. Oh my goodness. Yeah, if I say the phrase once this entire thing, somebody needs to cut me off and be like, stop it.
Do I have your permission to cut you off if you say that phrase?
If I say it.
Okay. One of the reasons we were having some issues with people getting cut off is Rick was on Wi-Fi and on an older device. Now we've since corrected that. He's on a direct connection, got a better computer. So there should be no delays in our broadcast. Knock on wood.
YFNA News continues to grow.
Hell yeah. And if you want to show your support for as little as $1 a month, click the Patreon link in the description. Next, I'd like to bring on Angelo. Welcome back, Angelo. How are you?
Gentlemen, how are you? And lady, doing well. Doing well.
Welcome back, Angelo. I love the wine picture in the background there. I need to get some to decorate this wall behind me so it's not so bland. But I do have my wine in my glass, so I'm ready for tonight. Yeah.
Good. I'm doing a week of no alcohol, so we'll see how this goes.
Good luck with
that.
I'm cheering for you, brother.
A week of no caffeine.
Listen, one thing at a time. I gave up alcohol. I gave up cigarettes. I need my caffeine. Okay.
All right, and then let's bring on our last guest, the other returning Republican, who unfortunately already cast his vote for Donald Trump, so it's too late to change his mind.
Oh,
Jon.
You know, Ethan, I knew you were a non-Game of Thrones fan. I felt it. I felt it. You know, I was just like, what? Who doesn't watch Game of Thrones?
I know.
I'm a huge nerd. I'm all about the fantasy crap. It's too slow.
Oh
People
my
are
God,
like,
nice.
You need to get through 4 episodes. I'm like, I'm not waiting 4 hours for this show to reel me in. I could have gotten through a whole movie by that point.
Oh, God. Game of Thrones, the best.
I already see that this is going to be
another day. Next night episode, Game of Thrones.
Let's get into the juice. But before we do, I would like to make a point. If I use the phrase bullshit, that just means I think you're finessing stuff up a little too much, or you're adding that salesman pitch to it. So I don't mean it derogatory or insulting. It's just easier to say bullshit. Is that okay?
That's okay. That's okay. A lot of love in this group.
Oh, absolutely. And particularly, like one of those bullshit statements was when you said, Trump has done everything he said he could, promised, followed through with everything he said he was going to do.
So Ethan's statement on that is everything he has promised, he has gone after. Now, Ethan would argue the fact to say that he has failed on a few of those promises, but he has tried and attempted to achieve that because he set the goal so high. But Ethan, I'll let you.
Yeah, I have like pages and pages of things Trump's promised that he hasn't followed through with. But in an effort to keep this conversation fair and balanced, I would like to start with Katie and give her a chance. Would you like to start with providing one of your reasons on why you think Donald Trump is the candidate to vote for?
So, I'm surprised I haven't brought this up sooner, but I think it's time that we finally really talk about foreign policy and immigration and stuff like that. I got really into world news for a while, and, especially with hearing the issues on refugees and, countries that do open border immigration and, how we compare and stuff like that. And at the end, not saying it, I really think that a lot of Democrats have this idea for immigration that doesn't work, and we've seen it in other countries. We see countries like Sweden that do open border immigration and kind of issues that we see with that. And for a lot of people, they say Trump hates immigrants. That's not true. He's just against illegal immigration. We need to have a system in order. We need to know who's coming in this country, and we need to make sure that people can't take advantage of that system. And that's important.
So what has he done, I guess, to improve foreign policy or help with immigration? Obviously, we'll exclude the fact that children are in cages, that women are unfortunately having hysterectomies against their will. We could go ahead and ignore those two things.
Well, the visas aren't a Trump thing, first of all. And secondly, these are children that are being sent to the border without their families, without having any idea what's going on. If we could have money for them to be able to live in mansions, that'd be wonderful. But at the end of the day, make me stop saying it. This is the best that we can do for the money that it costs. You know what I mean? So, and it's not like these kids are being imprisoned and kept there for years. It's literally just until the system can figure out what families that these kids belong to and how to get them back safely.
Okay, I have so many objections, but I don't want to hog the mic like I did last time. So, Rick and Angelo.
Well,
Yes.
if I can briefly, I have some questions about when we talk about his illegal immigration tactics, and this can be for anyone. There are reports that have shown his use of illegal immigration or undocumented workers in some of his resorts. John has something to say about that. So I'm just curious to know how we feel about how, he has this, on one hand, this set of ideals for making immigration better, but is still utilizing undocumented workers for his resources in his properties.
So before that's an excellent point, Rick, but I would like to get back. So Katie, are you okay with children in cages just because it's not wrong?
And here's the thing too, is I've also kind of looked into it. I've looked into a lot of specific places that a lot of these people and children are being held in. The cages were definitely overplayed and exaggerated and stuff like that. I've seen a lot of these facilities that even have game rooms. They have billiards, video games, all kinds of things. A lot of these kids are getting an education that they were never getting in their home country. If you really look into it, it's not nearly as bad as the media has played it out to be. And again, it's only temporary. It's literally just until we can get these kids home. What would you rather them do? Say, hey, you need to go sleep outside, in the middle of the desert? I mean, it's just giving them somewhere to sleep until they can get them back to where they need to be, or until they can get to a more semi-permanent situation. Most of these kids aren't even in there for more than a month. Most of them either find their families or get into a more semi-permanent situation before that.
Okay, so I have a few moral or ethical objections here. It sounds like you are just rationalizing that it's okay because it's only temporary. Like, you realize children are being
What's your solution?
only, and yes, Obama may have initiated this, but Trump has escalated it. Far more children are in cages now than under the Obama administration. That is a fact.
So again, I want to know what your solution
Fact
is.
checker, please check that.
Fact checker, if you could please confirm or deny whether I'm telling the truth or what would I suggest? Well, I'd suggest not putting them in cages and ripping them away from their families.
All right,
Okay,
Kate
my
solution
solution doesn't work. And again, this is my problem with the left. They don't give a solution. They just say that the right solution doesn't work. So I'm asking you, when there are children without families, without parents, being sent to the border, scared, having no idea what to do, what is your solution? What should we do?
If I may interject here, would that be all right? Okay.
Please.
Does anybody else here have immigrant parents besides me?
I have immigrant
No.
family, but not parents.
So your parents are immigrants to this country?
Not my parents, but I have family.
Okay, fine. Well, parents, direct parents, mom, dad. No. Okay. All right. So let me just give you a little insight here. Okay. Both my parents moved to this country in '74. Okay, from Italy, and how they obtained their citizenship was via a working visa. They had to be sponsored. They had to have a job lined up. My father did, at least, because they were married. And you had to be a skilled laborer at the time, or some profession that was in demand, if you will. That was the policy in the '70s. Okay. Well, my father met all those criteria. Okay, and that's how I was able to bring my mother and my brother at the time, who was 2 years old, to this country. So my point being is, I understand that there are jobs that need to be filled. Okay, we do actually need laborers in certain sectors of our economy. And by the way, my strongest suit is economics, so which at some point I hope we get into that. This is the type of procedure that needs to happen today. I don't know why we started to stray away from that in the late '80s, but this is the type of immigration that we should be looking for as far as people coming into this country. That's just a starter. Okay, I understand that people seek asylum. Of course, there's a procedure for that as well, and we want to be a compassionate country as far as people that have been forced out of their own lands for whatever reason. If you know the criteria for filing for asylum, I don't have to I don't have to get into that as far as that's concerned. Just really quick, Katie, you mentioned earlier Sweden. Just FYI, as of 2015, they completely changed their immigration policy, as did most of the Nordic countries, along with Denmark. It is very hard to get into Sweden at this point. Why? Because they took in too many refugees to begin with between 2010 and 2015, many of which were from the Middle East, obviously, from Syria specifically, if you will, along with Germany. Germany also changed their policy as far as how many refugees they'll accept, regardless if it's for asylum or not. So there's a reason. Okay, why? Because and I won't get too far into this, and I'll stop here. Their economies and their government can only take on so much. There is a balance to which you can accept people. There's a balance to which people can actually draw from the system, if you will. I'll use a polite term, in order for them to eventually give back to the system, in order for the balance to be there for it to happen. So there is a threshold. There is a threshold, and currently the estimates go anywhere between 11 million to 20 million people that are in this country illegally or without documentation, if you will. I'm a big advocate of a path to citizenship. Okay, we can do this. We can put them on that path within 5 years, them being legal U.S. citizens, welcoming to this country, being a part of our big, huge family here in the melting pot that is the United States. We have to have that. Okay, there is a middle ground here, and unfortunately, both sides, and yes, both Republican and Democrat is obviously what I'm talking about here, have chosen to take this as a political pawn in order to get their way with other topics and other issues. Listen, we can take care of DACA tomorrow. If they would stop attaching DACA as an anchor to some other policy that they want passed. So,
hold on. So, Angelo, let me give Katie an opportunity to respond, and then I want to bring Jon here in this conversation, because I can say from, I'm sure, Jon's background in working in staffing, understanding what it looks like for a lot of people coming to this country on work visas. But Jon, I'll bring that to you in a second. Katie, did you have a response for it?
Yeah. So in terms of what I said about Sweden, I know that there was a change, and I'm speaking about before the change, and that's exactly my point. They had to change it because they were like, this is not working the way we wanted it to, and we've seen that. And we've kind of seen a little bit that immigration isn't always the best thing for people of other countries. The people that do immigrate are the people that have enough money and resources and able to immigrate. The people that are really suffering, the people that are the most poor and stuff like that, those are the ones that can't leave their country. And most of the time, you're taking the people that have money, that can fix the economy, that can open up more businesses in those countries. Those are the ones that you're taking out of the country. So I'm not against helping people of other countries. I'm against the solution that people have for it.
What do you mean by that? What solution are you referring to? Because earlier you said there was no solution from the left.
No, I'm talking about to help other countries. A different problem with a different solution. People think that when we take in immigrants, we're helping people when in fact we're usually doing more harm. I don't know if you guys have heard of the gumball. Yeah, it's basically, yeah, one gumball equals X amount of people that the U.S. takes in every year for immigrants, and it's out of this population of poor and stuff like that. And you're showing how immigration does not actually help the world with poverty, with humanity. It doesn't work. We would be so much better off if we used the money that we spent on immigration issues and stuff like that. If we used that money and sent troops to build schools and facilities in different countries and stuff like that to help them, that would be way more helpful for these people of these countries than it is to take in immigration.
Okay, Jon. Well, let me before you do, Jon. Let me.
Well, wait. What's Ethan brewing right now? Something.
There's just there seems to be a lot being thrown in from all over the place in this conversation. Jumping back for a second, I would just like to say that I don't need to have a solution to what's going on right now. Or for instance, if someone has children in cages, I don't need a solution to say these children shouldn't be in cages. Like, so I don't understand why that is relevant when we can all agree. I would hope we would all agree that children in cages is immoral. It shouldn't be happening, and there should be no excuses or justifications in any sense on why that's okay, particularly children being separated from their families and the rampant sexual assault that is indeed happening. Now, in terms of if there's like gaming facilities, I have not seen any of that. However, I would assume that that's actually in the smaller amount with the amount of children that are indeed in cages.
So my point is same thing again. These children are still being brought to the border, whether they're being put in cages or not. So my question is what is your solution? What should we be doing when we are brought these kids that have no parents, that don't speak English, that we are trying to figure out how to get them back home safely? What's your solution?
Okay, so here again, why would I personally need a solution to outright condemn this behavior? Like, Katie, why not right now just say,
I'm not saying
if I may really quick.
You're distracting from the question. I'm saying you can condemn it all you want. Yeah, it really sucks and it's really sad that it's happening. So how can we fix it? That is what I'm asking you.
So if I could jump, Angelo, I know you wanted to comment there. If I just real quick, I want to throw this out there and just say, how about we just put them in some type of a facility instead of a cage?
Right. Like, I mean, that's a quick, easy solution. Like, just a larger.
To Katie's point, she's presenting something accurate. She's saying, okay, we can all condemn it. Great, wonderful. We all agree there.
That's not what she said. So, Katie, if you could clarify.
I said I am a huge lover of all kids, and it breaks my heart anytime a kid goes through any sort of trauma, and it really is sad. The whole situation is horrible, but what do you do? These kids were brought there. It's not like America is bringing them to the border without families and without a safe situation. They were brought there by other people. That is why they're in that situation. And, you know, it's working on getting them out of that situation. It's not trying to keep them there. It's just trying to say, okay, we need to give them somewhere to sleep out from outside until we can get them back home.
So, you know, I typically want to avoid comments like these, but I think this person makes an excellent point. Yeah, it's really sad that Trump grabs women by the P word, but what is your solution? How should we fix that? What is your solution, Ethan? That's kind of how it sounds right now. You should be outright saying, hey, this behavior is unacceptable. We should not be locking these children in cages. We should be doing something better. And I do not know behind who does this.
That's a horrible analogy.
Terrible.
Yeah. What?
Terrible.
my point is, so let's say the kids in cages did not exist at all.
Okay.
When there are kids at the border without parents, scared, not knowing what's supposed to be going on, not even knowing what an immigration policy means. These kids are there and they say, Ethan, what should we do? What is your solution? That is what I'm asking.
Let's not put them in cages.
I literally just said that.
Fine. Let's not. You're right. Let's not put them in cages. Where do we put them?
Where do we put them?
Literally just said a facility.
Stadiums do you have open right now?
Right.
How many
Sorry?
stadiums do we have open? Why aren't the government
Why you cut out?
any of these locations to try and find a safe haven? Anything is better than locking these people up into our system where they're going to be sexually assaulted and abused.
Okay.
Children do not belong in cages. This shouldn't even be an argument.
It's not an argument. We're not talking.
We're not arguing.
Katie, if I may.
No, go ahead. Sorry. I'm cutting you off.
That's not the argument, Ethan. We all know, I should say, we all have compassion within ourselves, and we all agree, we're in agreement that children should not be in cages. Yes, have we gotten past that part? Okay, great. We're all on the same page as far as that's concerned. There is the practical, aspect of this. Okay, fine. We don't put them in cages. What shall we do with them? That is the question she's presenting.
Yeah.
Well, allow me to jump in and answer yet again. We have homeless facilities, homeless shelters. We have other places that kids can go. Now, let me also clarify with this too. We're not just looking at, and Katie presents a point that these are kids that are being sent to the border without parents, maybe for refugee purposes, maybe for asylum purposes, whatever the case may be. But let's also keep in mind that we have these families that are being separated too at this same juncture at our border. Right. This is all still a symptom of what's taking place with this immigration policy, along with the deportation that I've seen in some of the comments, and actually just watched a documentary on with the immigration enforcement agency and their role in deporting and how they go about it. Like the whole system is shattered. But what we're talking about specifically here, it's not just kids that are being sent to the border without parents. There are kids at the border with parents that are being separated. And we're keeping these individuals, we're keeping these people housed in a facility like they're the animals that our current administration refer to them as. If we want to look at changing that, let me ask you, what are your solutions in changing that? Or specifically, what is it that Trump has done in this immigration policy in his foreign affairs, as you've indicated, that has made it a better system? Because what we're seeing right now is it's not.
So here's the thing too. So I want to go back to you talking about these kids that are going to the border with their parents. And, you got to keep in mind, a lot of these people are people that were caught trying to illegally enter the country.
But bullshit, that's irrelevant. That's completely irrelevant.
It's not.
That's not irrelevant.
Warrant being put on stage.
Can I finish?
Yeah.
Wait, I'm sorry. Go ahead, Katie.
They committed a crime. This is a crime that was committed. So you saying that, and that's the thing. It's not like they're being it's not a punishment. It's just a living situation with the budget that we can afford. In 2018, it cost us $7.4 billion for these immigration facilities for these kids. $7.4 billion. And yeah, it's a crappy living situation, but it's costing us a lot of money to be able to help these kids. So here's the thing. Going back to the point of parents being separated from their kids. They committed a crime. It's just as heartbreaking when a kid is crying that he had to be separated from his mom because his mom was doing drugs. Like, it's sad and it sucks. And at the end of, not saying it again, and most of these kids do get returned to families, and most of their parents just get deported and brought back home. These are situations that are problems that get solved. It's not a permanent thing. It's not like they're being imprisoned for the rest of their lives. It's just hey, this is temporary. I know it sucks, but it's not forever, and we're trying to get you home safely as best as we can. I'm getting a playback from somebody, by the way.
Hey, by the way, I would just like to let the children in cages know, if you've been sexually abused, it's not a big deal because it's not permanent. Really?
I'm not saying
What I'm
that.
seeing here are a lot of post hoc rationalizations on justifying why this is okay. And this seems to happen not just with the religious community, but with Trump supporters too. They will
Nobody is saying that sexual abuse is okay.
and excuse atrocious behavior. Oh, well, came here illegally.
I'm
Oh,
not
well, the money. I
excusing
don't give a shit. That's wrong, man.
goodness. Again, nobody is saying that they don't care. And nobody is saying that sexual abuse is okay. And I don't appreciate you putting those words into my mouth. You know,
Oh, I
we
didn't
agree
say
on this
you
respect
said
kind of
okay.
thing. Do not say that I'm okay with sexual abuse, because
I did not say that. I did not say
You
that.
implied it.
you implied it.
That there's
So here's my thing.
general consensus amongst the community.
So here's my thing. Yeah, we could say that sexual abuse in these facilities needs to be handled. We need to put money into investigations. We need to put money into background checks and the people running these things. That is totally okay to say that there's a problem there that we need to fix. And we are spending a lot of billions of dollars on these facilities to try to fix these things. And I know it sucks, but again, we aren't the ones bringing these kids to these situations.
But we're
It has to be dealt
these
with.
situations. We are. Okay, yes. They
No,
come
that's not
illegally.
fair.
So the American response is to, well, you came here illegally, too bad. We're going to lock you in a cage. We're going to let you get sexually abused, and it's your own fault because you came here illegally. That's what you're doing right now, Katie. You're making excuses and justifying this.
I'm not justifying anything. I just said, yeah, we need to fix those situations. But, in terms of facilities, giving these kids just somewhere to sleep, temporary situations, again, we're spending as much money as we can. How much money do you want to spend? $1 trillion so that these kids have a full room with a 50-inch screen TV in there too? I mean, and again, most of these kids are only there for a week or two. Sexual abuse, any situation of that sort, yes, that needs to be handled, and we should be spending more money on getting that fixed. I'm not saying that that is okay, but the facilities in general, take the abuse out of it, take the flaw out of it.
Ethan, hold on. Go ahead, Katie.
Take the flaw out of it. It's just somewhere for them to sleep while their parents go through the court system, whether they're going to be getting asylum and being brought somewhere safe, inside the country safely. It's just a matter of, hang on, everybody pause. You just hang out in this corner for a little bit. Let's figure out what's going on, and then we'll have a solution. These kids are not being held there that long. And take the sexual abuse out. That is something that could be dealt with.
Ethan, hold on.
But again, what is your solution? Do you want to spend $1 trillion so that these people can be staying in here for a week?
I've given a solution.
I mean,
I've given a solution. Rick's given a solution. There are
Okay.
plenty of
how much money do you want to spend on this?
I'm sorry?
To the solution that you propose, can we talk about that?
Sure.
Well, wait. Before you do, I want to bring Jon into this conversation because he's been remarkably quiet throughout this whole thing.
Let's
Not
listen.
to mention, but I'm interested, Jon, because you live in a border state, right? So do you ever get a chance to have this conversation with some of the residents down there? What are they talking about down in your state, and what do you know? What are your feelings?
Well, let's bring this conversation back full circle, right? Because we're here to talk about Trump, and I feel like we should say, hey, why Trump, why Biden, right? Because I feel like that's a fair topic on this whole thing, what we've been doing the last several weeks. So obviously, to me, in my personal opinion, I think we all agree the current system, it's probably not the right system, right? We need a better system. We all can agree with that. What's happening with children, it's wrong. It's disheartening, but at the same time, though, too, that's done upon actions. What's resulted in the current state of what's happening with those kids are the results of action, right? Diagnosing the situation. How did that lead up to that? Ethan uses the word cages. I don't like that word because
it's true. You don't like it because it's true?
It's not true. They're physically not in a cage. When I think of a cage, I think of a little tiny box of metal that literally looks like a cage.
Okay, hey everyone.
Like I think about a gorilla. I think about a gorilla and a damn. I'm at the zoo. I'm looking at a gorilla. I think of a cage, right? But back to the point.
No, real quick. For the sake of Katie and John, for the rest of this conversation, I'm going to finesse everything. So, hey, sexual assault, we'll take that out of it. Not a big deal.
Love to fluff. Love to fluff it.
Again, I really don't appreciate you applying that it's not a big deal. As somebody who is a victim of sexual abuse, do not say that doesn't matter. It does matter, and I'm willing to spend as much money as
all right, hold on.
Solve that.
Okay.
Put in all the money.
Hold on, because we're talking. Hey guys,
hold on.
We're talking about all of our solutions, and right now none of us are running for presidency. Last time I checked.
I'll say this at the end of the day. Even though I think
for presidency, I think I
right. I mean, I'll run it later on in my life.
Yeah, Rick and I have a side plan. Whatever, we'll talk about that down the road. But looking at just going with Trump's had a hard hand in foreign policy and immigration, right? And talking about the immigration, it was needed. And I think and if you can't admit that, well, then come on, you're just ignorant to the whole topic of immigration. It was needed. During the Obama and Biden administration, I think immigration was just out of control. It was one of those things. We had one of the loosest borders in all of the world, in my opinion. There's other countries who aren't even at the level of the United States that had more strict borders than we did here in the U.S. When Trump came in, we realized that we have to have a strict border plan. That's just reality. Not everyone can just come in and flow into the United States. That's also not reality. But to the point, this might make Rick and Ethan a little bit happy. I also feel, and I'm going to get to Angelo here in a second to connect this all. I also feel that here in America, there's jobs that the normal American doesn't want to do because now we're in this bougie state of reality to where I'm too good to go on a roof. And no offense, anyone, I'm not saying that's what illegals do, but that's an example. That's typically where you see some illegals is in the roofing industry and so forth. There's other industry guys.
Undocumented.
Undocumented. Okay. Undocumented individuals that take on jobs that us as Americans don't want to take on. However, looking at Angelo and what his parents did, that's the right way to do it. That is the right way to come into the United States of America. And that is what Trump has started. There has been a pause. I will give everyone that. There has been a pause this last year and a half. I don't think we've heard about immigration or we've had discussions about immigration in the last year and a half because obviously this year has been focused on COVID. Last year, I didn't even really feel like we talked about it enough either. But to Angelo's parents coming over here, that is a great example of what the American dream should be. And if you want to come over here, why should I say, yeah, Nancy Pelosi? I think you should give a stimulus to all undocumented workers. Why? You're here illegally. Why should my tax dollars or why should this government stimulus plan go to illegals? Why should they get free health care when Angelo's parents and others are doing it the right way in a system that should be followed and respected? Ethan, you're crawling. What do you got?
So here's one of my issues with your statement is, and people commonly make this mistake. They do this with addicts too. Why is methadone free for addicts when cancer treatments cost X amount of money? This is what we got to do. We got to stop this or that, this versus mentality. We can help everybody.
No, Ethan, no, you're talking about socialism. No, we cannot.
We can go into socialism.
No, I don't want to go into socialism. My point is,
how much
not possible. We cannot, guys. As much as the world needs each other, we cannot help everyone. That's not reality. It's not, and it sucks. It sucks for me to say that, but it's not reality.
Okay, that is so here's why I get frustrated with that, because that's something I used to say, man. I used to believe that, but
you used to believe it because you know it's true.
No, it's not true, because I look at great countries like Sweden, for example, and look at their healthcare system and how they're helping everybody.
Wait a minute, didn't we just talk about how Sweden had to say, "Hey, we need to stop trying to"?
They did.
Because it's a failed system. It failed Sweden. It failed Germany. It failed these countries.
So then we'll talk about America.
Rick, what are you going to say?
I was just going to ask if they have any black people in Sweden, but that's another conversation. Black and white later on. While we keep running over to Sweden, like I don't think they have a large black population there, but Angelo seems to think that there is. So
my point,
large, no, but there's a population.
But my point is, you side with Biden in this election. Do we go back to the Obama and Biden administration where it was loose borders, right? Helping, to Ethan's point, and Ethan, I love the heart, but it's not reality. Helping everyone, giving health care to everyone, it's not. So going to Trump and his law and order within immigration policy, at the end of the day, yes, some of the areas suck, but I respect it. I respect it because we have to do a better job about controlling our borders. We need a better system. And I worry with Biden, his system's going to go back to the era where he was VP and it was loose. It was not working. More people were pouring in here, and that's not an efficient system. Effective, too, as well.
You know, well, Angelo, I think you had a comment before I jump in on there.
All right. Okay. So first things first, everyone. Shall we just stay on the topic of immigration? Because we've consumed about 40 minutes at this point. I'll talk for hours, but I just want to know where we're going with this. Do you want to stay on immigration?
Yeah, we don't need to stay on immigration. We can talk about literally anything. Typically, why John and Katie are supporting Trump.
Okay.
It is the focus.
Okay. So my point being is, look, immigration is obviously one of the major branches of issues that we have in the country, which we can talk about it for hours. That's my point. Is like, where do you want to go with this?
Well, let me
Can I make a fact clarification point real quick? I'm glad you brought this up because this is actually true. More people were deported under Obama administration than Trump. So this looser border thing, that's not correct. And additionally, statistics show that if we completely close the borders, we lose the rotating door.
We're not going to close the borders.
More people, if tighter restrictions. If we tighten the borders too much, we close that rotating door, and people end up staying here because they're scared to take the risk of going back to their own country.
I want to bring in something that John mentioned with because I have a question about this mentality. I think someone in the comments just kind of touched on it a bit here. So when we talk about we're not able to help everybody, how do we decide who gets help and who doesn't? I'm just out of curiosity. What is maybe under this current administration or just in general, how do we decide who gets help?
If you're following the United States of America's laws and what this country was founded on is United States citizens, in my opinion, Rick, to answer your question, if you're a U.S. citizen, you get help. You get whatever topic we're talking about before someone illegally does.
Okay. So to your point then, just so I'm clear, what you're saying is we're not looking for handouts for undocumented immigrants in our country. You're saying that with the assistance that the government can't offer, give it to American citizens first before giving it to those who.
And what I mean by U.S. citizens, I mean visa holders, individuals that are going through the system and process correctly.
Okay. And do you feel like for any of you, and Angelo, I have a question about who you're supporting because I don't think we've covered that yet, but do we feel like this current administration has given that opportunity? Has this current administration allowed American citizens to benefit from any assistance from the government over undocumented immigrants or those who are here illegally?
Aside from welfare fraud.
Say that again, Katie, I'm sorry.
I said aside from welfare fraud, which is a major problem.
Sorry, what's the major problem?
Welfare fraud. A lot of people sell, the food stamps, all kinds of stuff to undocumented immigrants for cash.
When you say a lot of people, can you please clarify what that means?
Sure, I can look up. Well, so I know it's in the billions that we spend on welfare fraud every year. Let me see here.
Well, I mean, there's going to be fraud. I mean, that's going to happen. People are going to take advantage of the system. I'm not going to deny or argue against that. The point is, how do we minimize that?
Well, Katie, while you're looking that up, if I can ask Angelo, because I don't think we've covered this, who are you supporting, Angelo, or have you made the decision yet?
Who am I voting for?
Yeah.
My candidate, which is Joe Jorgensen.
Right. You're okay. Gotcha. We'll circle back to that in a second too. Go ahead, Katie. My apologies.
No, you're fine. I wasn't. Sorry.
Okay, there we go.
You guys can go ahead.
5%. I find 3 to 5% to be an acceptable loss. If we're helping people, 3 to 5%, not a big deal. That is not a lot of people. That would be a minimum or a small amount.
So, estimated payments, improper payments. I think this was 2017. We spent 99 billion.
99 billion on
Improper payments of welfare.
Okay. So again, I have no issue that it may be a problem, or it is a problem. But again, if we're only talking about 3 to 5%, I'm okay with that.
It's 12.8% of all payments.
Katie, to your point, what you're saying is there's welfare fraud, but aside from the welfare fraud that is allowing undocumented or those who are here illegally a chance at that help that Jon was referring to. Outside of that, this administration has done well with providing resources for current citizens over undocumented citizens. Is that what you're saying?
Recently, I mean, that's a whole separate argument.
I would say, yeah, most likely.
Okay. Gotcha. I need a clarification of what an understanding of what you were getting at with what assistance they should be able to deliver and to who, because we do live in a country where, you know, that's a tricky conversation to have, because you have the 1%ers who are getting everything right, and then everyone else who's still kind of struggling, as we are currently seeing in our current situation here in our country, right? So I really just kind of wanted to clarify where your stance was and what we get as citizens versus or who gets what help, basically.
So I don't like grouping in the top 1%. I don't like grouping that up as the same problem, because they're separate problems.
I definitely kind of use that as an exaggeration. My apologies. What I mean is there are the haves and the have-nots, right? That we'll keep it 100 there. There are haves and there are have-nots, and those who are in the have-not category, you know, what assistance are they receiving? But for this particular conversation, it sounds like we're just kind of referring to immigration versus our current citizens in our country. But to Angelo's point, we don't necessarily have to stay on immigration, because I am curious to know, Angelo, what has been kind of your world with not supporting either of the two candidates and going third party? Because a lot of people are saying, and I saw this really funny meme very recently that said, this is the team that's in the finals, right? You got Biden, so I'm curious, what does your world look like with voting for a third candidate that the rest of the country is like not even?
Well, it's a constant battle. I mean, to put it lightly. Look,
because you mentioned a point. You said in a comment on Facebook that we could talk about this too. This two-party system. We can't change this two-party system by voting within this two-party system.
Right.
And I'm wondering if voting outside of this two-party system, as minimal as it's going to be, how do you expect to change the two-party system?
How about this? Let me just make the case on why I think this will tie right in, okay? And just give me a couple of minutes here just to kind of get this whole thought out.
Go ahead.
Let me directly address the common trope that is a third-party vote is a wasted vote. Okay, so I'm going to address that directly.
Sure.
That is completely wrong, and it is incorrect. I'm going to explain to you why. Okay.
Please do.
If let's just say, Gary Johnson polled, fact checker, give me, I think it's 3.2% of the popular vote. He got 9 million votes, I think, roughly, in 2016. Okay. If 9 million people in this country are so frustrated with the two-party system to the point where they are backing a third party, with 9 million people saying that, at the very least, both parties will look at that in the next election and say, wait a minute, those are 9 million votes out there that we need to start listening to, that maybe we need to start catering to them just a little bit. So at the very least, it's a net positive for all things considered. Okay, for all intents and purposes, it does matter. It's not a wasted vote. Because if that number goes from 9 million to 12 million to 20 million, you got to believe the two major parties are going to start looking at that and saying, wait a minute, why are we missing these people? Why are we not communicating with them? They're going to reach out to these people that think differently. And a diversity of opinion and ideas is always a net plus, if you ask me personally. So to anyone out there, I'm just going to make a little just quick plea. Anyone out there debating, thinking, wow, I really shouldn't vote for third party because so much is on the line, I disagree. You're actually doing the entire system a service by voting third party, by making them think in different ways. So there you go.
I would partially agree with that statement. We absolutely need a third party. But let me make this easy. Is Jo Jorgensen, does she have any chance at all of winning this election in 3 weeks? Be completely honest and transparent.
I'm only going to answer if I can back it up. That's all I'm going to say. I'll answer, but I'm going to add something beyond that.
Go ahead.
Well, just simple question.
No, she doesn't have a chance of winning. No, she doesn't. But that's irrelevant from the point. That's irrelevant from the point. In fact, it goes more to what I'm saying. Voting a third party makes sense. It does, even in a blue state, a predominantly blue state, or excuse me, a non-swing state. Pardon me. It makes sense. It does.
So
your point that I'm sorry, Katie.
Thank you,
Angelo, your point that you're saying is it causes these two parties to notice that people want a third party, and they're going to start catering to the needs or the wants of these voters. Is that what you're saying?
Yes, and also, if I may, it also broadens their scope as far as the way they think. Okay, this is a positive. I'm telling you, this is a positive. Even if a libertarian or another third party is never president of the United States, this is still a net positive to our constitutional republic. It absolutely is.
So I would agree with that, except for right now during this election.
Right. I don't know if this is the election.
I agree with you, Angelo.
Yeah.
But I'd rather not focus on the third party too much, particularly because they don't have a chance at winning this election. So we're fighting, the bigger battle, Donald Trump and Joe Biden. I totally forgot where I was going with that. Foreign policy. By the way, I wanted to circle back to something with you, John. Just to clarify, when Trump was in office, as we talked about last week, there were 8,800 troops. They were boosted to 14,000. Now it's down to 8,500. So Trump has only brought down 300 troops, and he has exactly.
We know.
Okay. Just
I know. Because you had this statement last week. I get it, and this was one of Trump's promises, everyone, and Ethan loves it, that Trump didn't achieve something that he promised.
There's a few of the things that he had achieved, but that's what.
He's still one of the most successful presidents in the first term of his presidency, and that's a fact.
No. Sorry, Katie. Okay, Katie.
So, can you reread that fact again, just one more time?
Which one?
How many troops, or what was the troops?
The troop number.
8,800, and then it boosted to 14,000, and then it dropped back down to
where specifically?
Afghanistan.
Okay, so that's in one country, because I remember last session that we had, I had a graph, that was troops total. And I remember saying it went from this number to this number. And there were thousands, I guess it depends on what specifically we're talking about. Troops in general, troops, what I mean?
I see where Katie's going. She's got a point, because obviously there were some high tensions last year too with Syria and the oil fields and so forth, and then also fighting, continuing to fight ISIS and finishing that off and so forth. So yeah, we had a high fluctuation because we had to mend some things and take care of some situations. But like you said, the number has dropped back down significantly. During Obama and Biden's administration, which I don't know, Ethan, what was the number of troops that they had overseas?
I don't have that information.
I don't have that number either, but I'm going to assume, and I'm going to opinion guess to say that it's more, that they had more troops over there.
Okay. Do you care about what's true, John?
I do.
Then why would you just say, hey, I don't know, but I'm going to assume?
Because someone can Google that right now, and I guarantee I am accurate.
Well, before we do, let's just.
Sorry, Rick. So we're okay with just assuming things. and
Well, no.
saying them as truth.
Well, no, but I'm about 99.9.
Listen, our fact checker is on it. But to the point, though, I will say this though, John, to give this to you, you are looking at a wider span, right? So if we want to compare apples to apples, we would have to look at the troop number in Obama-Biden administration for his first term, right? That's true. True point. You have to factor in what was handed to him in that first term, correct? Right? We'd have to say this is what he was handed, and this is how he worked with what he had. Versus, and
Trump was handed a war.
Even in this case, right?
He was in the Middle East.
What he was handed as well. Yeah, no, definitely. I definitely again. So to give you that, just make sure we're accurate and compare apples and apples. I don't know if we're still on this point yet. I wanted to circle back to Angelo's point about the third party and the quote unquote non-wasted vote. I use that term very loosely. Are we still on foreign policy?
We should try and focus on Trump, his policies, and why they're supporting him. Earlier, John, which I'm gonna, before we get to our caller, I have time to think about this, but you had said that Trump is the best president. So I want you to think about by what metric are you saying
to correct my wording, I said Trump has been one of the most successful, not the best, the most successful.
Okay. So if you could, I'm going to take this caller, but let this marinate or ruminate in your brain. By what metric or standard are you saying he's the most successful? And what is he most successful at? In the meantime, I'd like to get to our first caller. Kevin, you're on with Rick and Ethan and the Roundtable. How are you?
Hey there, Kevin, what's up?
Hi, guys. This is Kevin. My question was exactly what you just posed, Ethan. What metric, and to everyone who supports him, what exactly makes Donald Trump the most successful president? What has he actually done? Not what does it sound like he did. The economy looked great, because the real feel of the economy hasn't been great in 10 years as an economy. It's a very, very much so a balloon economy, and it has been for a while. It has been.
No, my man. Trump.
Let him finish, John. Let him finish.
I'm sorry. I'll put the stats in the actual chat in a moment, but just what exactly has he done? That's just what I'm wondering.
Okay, first off, to talk about the economy, my man, I appreciate your opinion, but you're falsely off. Everyone, this is a fact. Ethan, you love your facts. Under Trump's administration, we had the best economy in history. That is a fact.
What does that mean?
What do you mean? There is a meaning. Look at what we
break that down if you want.
Creating more jobs. Look at the almost 4 million jobs that he has created. Lowest unemployment, and I'm not talking about today, guys.
Of course,
Ethan and Rick are going to use this as an example. Ethan and Rick are going to say, of course not today. COVID happened. That was a virus that impacted the globe. Trump didn't go overseas or go to China. China didn't fuck up our economy. COVID did. So yes, my argument stands on that to say a virus took down a global economy. Every country went through a recession. Under Trump, we had the best economy. Ethan, I'm going to continue to say it because it's a fact.
No, it's not.
I want to just interject real quick and say before Katie answers, we do have Angelo on, who is into economics, and he self-proclaimed that earlier. So I definitely want to give him a chance to refute or agree with that. But my apologies. Please continue.
Real quick, sorry, Kevin. Did you have something else you wanted to say?
Well, I wanted to know what made the economy so great. 25% of the people in the country are invested in the stock market. So if we're talking stocks, it leaves out 75% of the population. If we're not talking stocks, it leaves out 80% of the population, because 20% of the population in this country are the wealthy people in the country who are vastly over the poverty level. Our poverty level, 50% of the country is in the poverty at the poverty level. 70% of people in the country don't have $2,000 in the savings account. So what are you telling me that the economy is doing great?
Kevin, what I'm telling you is,
as a person who's been in finance for the past 13 years, I'm not really understanding. Now, the country's not doing great financially, and that makes my job great. I get to help people figure out this thing a lot. But in actually people hurting and people suffering and what the economy is doing, it's not doing great.
Kevin, it is. So I appreciate your financial background, but that's not an economic background. There is a difference. And second off, when you talk about the stock market, if you want to get into the stock market, bud, go put $1,000 in it and go join the top percenters of whatever that may be and go ride the wave. That's a choice. To play the market, that's a choice, everyone. And to not play, hold on, Ethan, hold on. If you want to go in the market, go play the market. All right, I started playing the market a few years ago. If you want to go join the wave, go do it. That's a personal opinion about saying, oh, everyone's who's playing the market. Well, then go play the market. If you want to do it, go do it.
Country's in poverty. How do you expect people with no money to play the market? Come on.
Are you talking about the United States of America is in poverty? Is that what you're saying?
I'm saying the people in poverty. How can you tell them to just go play? People with no money can't buy.
There are always going to be people in poverty. And that's unfortunate. Again, that almost goes back to the thing is as much as we can make policies and everything like that, there are always going to be that amount of people in poverty. And that's shitty. That's real shitty to say. I know we can all agree with that.
That's capitalism is what that is. Hey, before you finish up, Kevin,
capitalism is what we're founded on.
Kevin, we don't have to keep you. Did you have anything else as we continue this conversation? I know that you're watching. We appreciate you calling in and watching too.
It actually looks like he disconnected.
Okay.
Good. I didn't like Kevin's statements.
Angelo, I want to
because they were true.
Angelo, I want to go ahead and bring you in on this because
they're actually accurate.
You do have this background in economics, Angelo. What are your consensus?
So first things first, okay? To what Jon was saying earlier, there are a multitude of metrics that we can go by as far as how to gauge the economy, okay? There is not one metric. Just let's all be clear about that. There are many different factors and many different ways to gauge how the economy is doing. It's not one thing, okay? Let's just all start with that. We all agree?
Absolutely.
Agree. Okay. All right. So now what can we do? The major factors. We can look at GDP, which actually is kind of antiquated at this point, but I won't get into why that is. We have GDP. We have, yes?
No, I just wanted to point out again, we had touched on this last week. I did verify this information, so I just want to clarify that he did promise a 5% GDP growth, and it only grew 2.9%. And the GDP as of July 20th dropped 9.5%.
Irrelevant.
By
irrelevant
COVID.
Policy.
Okay, hold on. Hold on. Angelo, go ahead and finish.
If I may. Okay, thank you.
Please.
So we have GDP, okay? We have unemployment rates. We also have median income. We also have poverty line. We also have things like home ownership that they gauge, new homes being built, okay? So again, there's a lot of different factors here. So to what Jon was saying, here's a little bit of fact, okay? I'm not going to have the exact numbers for you, fact checker. You can look them up, but I'm going to be close, okay? I'm just going off the top of my head here. Unemployment at one point in time before COVID was at 3.7 or 3.8%. Check me on that one. Okay. Again, one of the lowest, if not the lowest in modern history.
The lowest.
Okay, recent history, excuse me. Okay. We had an increase in African-American home ownership. We had an increase in home ownership overall. Okay. Fact check me on both of those. I know that I'm right about the African-American aspect. I think we have more home ownership overall as well, but please check me on that one. Also, median income for certain demographics, certain areas of our economy have definitely gone up. Now, what we have to talk about is the under 85,000 demographic, okay, which most of us sit in. This is where things have been stagnant. Okay, this is fact. All right, the median income for somebody making anywhere between $40,000 and $85,000 has been a bit stagnant. That's where you get platitude from Bernie Sanders and their group saying, "Oh, the middle class hasn't received a raise in 30 years," or whatever trope he throws out there. Okay, so there is some fact to that. Okay, so upon what Jon was saying, he is actually correct on those aspects, and those are major factors that overall make up the economy as a whole. Now, where we are struggling, as I said, is under that threshold. Okay, which there are things that we can address to do that, which actually ties a little bit into immigration, by the way, just a little bit there. So let's just talk about that, what it is. So what Jon was saying, he's not off base. He really isn't. And I'm not going to say Trump can take full credit for this because he can't, by the way. Okay.
That was going to be my question. Thank you.
Trump cannot take full credit for this. Okay. We had a complete disaster in 2008, where we slowly made our way back, but actually threw on the gas and recovered a little bit too fast. That is the truth. Okay, we had a artificially low interest rate that should have been raised more, which wasn't, because most of those that were in the Department of Treasury were scared. Okay, and those that sit on the board of the Federal Reserve Bank are overlords, by the way, just in case you didn't know that. All right, they wanted to keep it artificially low as a way to keep stimulating the economy, but it is all artificial. Okay, so anyway, there were policies that Obama put in place, okay, in his two terms that actually affected the first 2 years of Trump's presidency, as far as from an economic standpoint. Okay, so it's a bit of both. It's a mixture, ladies and gentlemen. And to say that any one given president can make the economy go up or down is flat wrong on its face. The president has influence. There's no two ways about that. But there are many other layers to this.
But Angelo, and I appreciate that. So how did in 2016, during the Biden and Obama administration, did the economy dip below 2% in 2016? Fact check me, because I just looked that up today. Under 2.2% in 2016. Oh, that felt good. Fact check me. I felt like I was on that. I felt like I was you. I felt like I was you first. Like, fact check me. In 2016. So that happened in 2016. So then to go back up, and fact check me again, but the highest GDP hit 4.2% during Trump's presidency. Again, check that today.
That was for 1 quarter, though. That was for 1 quarter. That was not
one quarter, 2 quarters.
I understand that, but that's 1 quarter. There's 3 quarters a year.
And the reason why Obama and Biden, the economy didn't grow, is because Obama had too many regulations in place to continue the economy to grow further than what it did on average. I don't know Obama and Biden's average during their presidency, but the reason why there was slow growth was too many regulations. And during Trump's presidency in 2017, the tax cut and loose regulations, cutting all those out, is what really spurred the economy to grow. And that was under the Trump administration. I'm not denying the fact that slow moving growth wasn't happening when Trump did it, but in 2016, how does the GDP hit below 2% and then go all the way up 4.2% in 1 quarter? But it still obtained that. It still hit that. You can't use the argument for this year. 2020 is wiped out. You had a virus that put Ethan, you had a virus that put everyone in a global economy. That is out of everyone's control.
John, if I may, he's right. This is an anomaly. You can't count 2020.
Yeah, I said an anomaly, but if the president was not responsible in his handling of COVID, then he can absolutely.
Ethan, everyone went into a recession. It didn't matter what Trump did. Everyone went into a recession.
Really? Because other countries aren't suffering the way this country is.
Everyone statistically went into a recession. The globe went into a recession this year. Every country dipped into one.
Hold on, because I thought Katie wanted to jump in here.
Katie, get in here.
Yes.
I'll be honest, I'm not huge with economy and stuff like that, but I was going to jump in on that. Every country suffered one way or another. I wouldn't say I don't know enough about it, but I'm sure America wasn't the worst, and I'm sure, even the best hurt. You know what I mean?
Well, I never mind. Go ahead, Ethan and John.
Okay, so real quick, for those watching, I would like to preface that this entire roundtable, none of us are experts in any means. We are average people who are just talking. What we say should not be taken as fact, no matter how many times John wants to say it's a fact. I assure you, you should be fact-checking all of us and questioning all of us, myself and Rick included. We get things wrong.
I'm only here for the questions. Because we still, here it is.
Hold on, Ricky, if I may, really quick, because Kendra put up a couple of, I don't know if it was kind of fast. She put up a couple of fact checks there. I don't know if you guys caught that.
Yeah.
I will say I just sent a message to Kendra, but I did just read that, so that is fresh in my mind. I'm not sure. She's pulling from the Census Bureau, and I'd have to look, but I'll get back to you on that one. I know I'm right on that. I have to. I'll source it for you guys, just so you know.
Okay, so John, Katie, here's a bit of my issue with this conversation here. When presented with information that goes against Trump, or particularly goes against your views, both of you either excuse it justify it or say it's irrelevant or not important, particularly like with Kevin. You just immediately shook your head and wrote off everything he had to say, even though he was presenting you with accurate information.
It wasn't accurate.
It actually was, because
It
I had
wasn't.
one of those earlier. So, Katie, John, do you care about what's true?
Ethan, at the end, oh my God, I was about to say it, Katie.
I know.
I'm taking a sip every time someone says it.
Holy shit.
I believe they're playing a drinking game in
Look,
our comments.
Here's the thing. I think last week you can admit the fact that I don't dismiss facts. Every time a fact is being brought up, I say, hey, you're right. I apologize. I don't dismiss anything. But looking at your guys' argument and the continued argument of so many Democrats too, to say under Biden and Obama, did they have the lowest Black American, Asian American, Hispanic American unemployment? Because Trump did. But your argument back to me would say, well, not right now, because that's the only thing you stand on. We're in a global recession due to a virus that was not created by Trump. And hell, you can almost
created by Trump.
But your argument continues to say, of course, John, not this year. This year, you have to throw out the window. Actually, we can almost say that the communist leaders of China most likely created this virus, but we can get in a different topic.
We can't just say that.
We can. I can. That's a personal opinion. That's a personal opinion. I can say that.
But we don't know that that's true. And that's my point. It is we should actually care about what's true. We shouldn't make assumptions.
Absolutely.
Throw things
but
out.
If I'm going to say this is my assumption, this is my opinion, which I do a lot, then I'm going to continue to say that.
Then say that.
I do. I do. If you're listening, I do. I have said that.
I've watched you say, I'm going to assume this, and that's a fact. You've done that numerous times.
Assuming is not a fact. Assuming is guessing.
I know.
It's an assumption.
You've done that. That's my point.
Let me ask you this.
I'm assuming.
Hold on. Let me ask you this, and I need some understanding here. This is why we have this show and some clarification. Why is this year a throwout when we're still alive? We're still trying to survive. We're still trying to move forward. We still have life to live. I have a hard time understanding how we just throw a whole year out. Like if you're a business owner and you have a bad year, you don't throw that year out and say, well, this happened and it's an anomaly and we throw it out. You still have to factor in the leadership or lack thereof that took place within this year, within this time frame. So why do we get to throw this year out? Why is that possible when no other president got to throw a year out because of an anomaly?
Because no matter who was president, we would have said the same exact thing. If Trump was never president, we would still be having this conversation. We're arguing on why we support Trump or why we don't support Trump, and it's irrelevant to who's president because it's going to be the same situation. COVID would still exist. Businesses would still be hurt because of COVID.
Well,
so that's why we're saying we're throwing it out, because it's not, it doesn't matter who's president. The situation would have existed the same way.
But that's not true. It would not have existed the same way. If we had a different president, they would have responded differently. I'm not saying
not true. Not true.
Oh, okay. So what you're saying right now?
Play Monday morning quarterback. Anybody can do that right now. To even entertain that thought is ridiculous. Look, to say that Biden would have been Joe Biden or anyone else would have made any other decision.
I didn't say that. I didn't say that. Do not put words in my mouth.
Okay.
I said if there was a different president, it would have been handled differently. I did not say Biden. I did not say it would be handled better. I said differently.
You know who had the most power this year? Do you realize who had the most power this year outside of the president?
Our Senate, who didn't really do anything with it.
That goes back to my point why it's irrelevant as well.
So if you're pissed off about the policies and stuff that happened this year, you talk to your governor because he gave power to his governors this year.
Sorry, Katie, I'll let you go ahead.
So this is something that I've talked about a million times. One of my biggest frustrations with people that, act like the world was ending because Trump was elected. Most of the things that they were scared about with him being president were things that aren't in the president's control. It's your state. So if you are concerned about these problems, why don't you know who's running for governor? Why do you not know who runs your state? Because those are the people that are involved.
I'm so glad you brought that up, Katie. I am so glad you brought that up because, as I've said before, local elections do matter, and it's very important to know who is running your municipality as well as your state. Having said that, hold on. Having said that, let's talk about that for a minute because we looked at a graph earlier, and Ethan, I'm not sure if you still have that graph, but the leading states right now with the COVID outbreak, taking place, and all of this happening since, I believe, maybe August, maybe even as far back as July, the leading states are the Republican states who have followed the leadership of our current administration. So when we talk about, yes, you're right, the states, and you said it last week too, as well, that states' rights or states have, it's the states that implement the decisions for what the response is going to be to COVID. A lot of the ones who have taken the leadership from or who have taken direction from the leadership of our country are the ones that are the most impacted. So they have had financial crises and continue to have these financial crises. Illinois is doing probably is one of the best states because of the leadership of
Rick, Illinois is preventing the inevitable. So what's your guys' take on the WHO coming out and saying
we've already been through it though, John? The thing is,
lockdowns have been more of a detrimental impact than COVID itself. So WHO literally just came out with that the other day. So what's your guys' thoughts on that? Because to me, this is a virus, and as much as your fans are going to hate me for saying this, the cure to this is herd immunity. We just put ourselves in a worse situation by locking ourselves down. And I get it. This virus is bad, guys. I'm not saying that. This virus is bad.
You're not a
WHO, Ethan. I'm not. The WHO, which you listen to, scientists just came out with this article 2 days ago.
Yeah,
okay.
But hold on. Here's the thing. Now, the WHO potentially did come out with this, and that's great. But my question or concern is, and you said that Illinois is preventing the inevitable, and herd immunity is the only direction for us to go in. Help me understand why that's the best solution for us.
Good point, Rick. So I guess here's a simple thing: why Biden versus Trump? I choose choice versus government control.
I got you.
Simple,
that's
but right
that's
there.
what I want to get to. That's exactly what it is. People will choose the freedom that we have to do and live this life that we want to, but don't realize that it comes with a responsibility. And the leadership that we have currently has exploited that freedom and brought out the worst of the responsibilities within that freedom by being irresponsible. Yeah, it sucks to have to wear a mask, right? Let's use this as an example. But to blow that out of proportion as to exploit the freedom of choice with wearing a mask and saying that, understanding that wearing a mask was simply designed to protect other people potentially from just based off of what we know off of this virus, that's poor leadership. And to say that this current administration is exemplifying great leadership or is a successful president, or we have to throw this year out, that doesn't make sense to me, because at the end of the day, it's still included in his reign of leadership. Sorry, I had to get that out. That was a good trick.
So
Real quick, sorry, Katie. The head of the World Health Organization has ruled out herd immunity as a response to the pandemic.
Our current president thinks that it's herd mentality, so it's fine. He
So-
called it herd mentality.
Okay, and then we do have another guest I'd like to bring on in a moment. But before I do that,
Katie has a response to. Go ahead, Ethan.
I do want to point out that my issue with Trump is he called it a hoax. That's a fact.
Hang on, pinpoint. Pinpoint that.
I'm sorry?
He didn't call it a
Pinpoint?
hoax.
I have a comment on that whenever you're ready.
Okay. Go ahead.
He didn't call it a hoax.
The hoax is that it was a dangerous, deadly virus that could have killed us all. It's not that it's not its existence that is the hoax. It's the idea that it was dangerous and that all of us are in danger. That is the hoax. It's not that it doesn't exist. And that's something that really frustrates me about a lot of people that do like to, point fun at Trump and like talk about how stupid he is. They're using things the wrong way and, trying to make it seem so much out of what it actually is. It's the idea that we all were told you need to stay home for your safety. Your life is in danger. And we all financially suffered when in reality, only a small percentage of us actually were in danger. And this is something I've explained before. If I were a governor of a state, my ruling would have been, you are responsible for your own health. If you are vulnerable, if this is a risk to your life, you are more than welcome to get financial aid, unemployment, There are a million ways to get groceries delivered to your home by people that have been trained to make sure that it is safe for you. There are resources for you. Do not leave your home. Everybody else that will be okay, that will survive, that need to get back to their businesses, that need to be able to put food on the table, they have the right to.
And Katie,
you are responsible for yourself.
If I could respond to that very briefly before we bring this guest on, I want to be clear. What happened is our society, with the freedoms that we have and we use irresponsibly, said if we don't die, then it's okay to get sick, right? And that's basically what the mentality is that you just presented. But keep in mind that this virus is still very young, and we're very early in the stages of what we know about the effects of this virus. Remember, I said last week, there are people that are still dealing with long-term effects from this. I know personally that are dealing with long-term effects. We don't know at the end of the day the dangers of the virus and the long-term effects of it. So to just say simply that we don't die right now and we can just find a way to deal with the long-term effects is irresponsible.
You know what else is long-term effect? Losing your business or losing your home or not being able to provide for your children. That's a long-term effect. I would rather lose my taste or have some sort of lung problems before telling my kids, I'm sorry, I can't provide you food tonight. I'd rather my breathing feel like I'm breathing out of a straw.
But you just said resources out there. You just said that there are resources for everybody to be able to be okay, right?
Yeah, sure. If you feel like you are vulnerable and your life is in danger and that is what you need to do, by all means. There are people that are vulnerable that say, hey, COVID could kill me, but I still would rather put food on the table for my kids. Unemployment is an option, and they do provide extra for people with kids. People like me, it doesn't work. Or, if my mom up and said that she, felt in danger, she would only get $300 a month, with the stimulus and stuff like that. But for the most of us, you pick and you choose. You decide what works for you. That is your freedom, and that is what we expect.
All right, real quick, I would like to bring on the a friend of the YFNA community, the president of Canadian Atheists, Randolph Richardson. How are you, my friend?
Hello. Well, this is a very interesting conversation. I think overall it sounds to me like capitalism has failed.
Come on, please.
What?
Okay.
Well, it sounds like, we are like up in Canada, we help people. We're trying to put in measures to help people who get through the coronavirus COVID-19 challenges. But what I'm hearing, it sounds like in the U.S. that there is a very strong push against helping people, against anything that kind of sounds like it could be socialist in nature. And that concerns me because it sounds like people are putting money before people.
Really? So when a stimulus package is rolled out and we should put trillions of dollars into marijuana funding during COVID-19, you think what? You think that's going to help people without jobs?
Oh, marijuana.
I'm sorry. Do you get to vote in the United States for Biden or Trump? I'm confused. You're in Canada.
I don't vote in American elections.
So you don't really know about some of the policies the Democrats are playing right now.
Don't make assumptions.
No, because you invited someone here outside the United States that doesn't even have an option into voting in this election. And why Biden versus Trump? So again, Bud, you're saying capitalism sounds dead, and it sounds like
I didn't say it sounds dead.
Like we're against socialism and helping people.
Capitalism hasn't failed.
What we're against is putting billions of dollars into shit we don't need right now. That's not important to maintain people's businesses, to make sure people go back to school and live a life. That's what we're focused on right now. But when the left side does bullshit like that, we don't need it right now at the moment. And this conversation does heat me up because there's a lot of fucking people right now that do need help, but the left, Nancy Pelosi and all of them are playing little political games. Ethan, you know it. You know she is.
Hold on.
As I am here in Canada, just a sec. Sorry, Katie. As I am here in Canada, we are your neighbors. We're concerned about what goes on in the U.S. because that does impact us as we are your neighbors. We're all sharing the same planet. Anything goes on anywhere in the world is a concern to us. Your policies do have an impact on us, just as some of our policies have an impact on you. We have to get along. we worry about things like here we have socialized healthcare that actually works quite well. Earlier in the program, it sounded like you're saying no socialized healthcare. It's just something that you don't want. You don't want to be paying for other people's illnesses. Here in Canada, if my taxes, which they do go to other people having serious health conditions so that they don't have to lose their house or their business or something, to me, that makes me feel good. I hope I'll never have to utilize those services, but hey, I could get cancer in a week, and then I will be glad to have those services and not have to go into enormous debt for it. To me, this is citizens helping other citizens through our tax system. I know in the U.S. it's a bit of a different attitude. I'm interested to hear what you have to say, Katie. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to stop you.
If I may answer that.
No, hang on, Angelo.
hold on,
Can
Angelo.
you
Give
first?
Katie a second.
So something that kind of irritates me about people saying that, oh, well, you don't care about people that are vulnerable and stuff like that. So which are we picking and choosing? We could care about one group of people or the other. That's not how things work. People are going to be financially hurt if they cannot go to work. They will not be able to support their children. They will not be able to live life. I know it sounds like it's, oh, you only care about money. It's not. We care about life. In order to provide for your families, you need money. It's not about the money. It's about your life and how you are able to handle it. And another thing that I wanted to point out too, you know, I grew up in a fairly rough situation. My mom had me as a teenager, you know, and my mom was working 3 jobs, working so hard to support me. And every single time she said, I refuse to go on welfare. I'll live in the car before I go on welfare because I do not want to be taking money from other single moms trying to support their kids. I don't want to be taking money from the nurse that's working 20-hour shifts.
That's right.
It depends on the person.
Do you think the policy should be very focused on helping more people then, rather than justifying things based on how much money is saved?
Sorry, can you say that question one more time?
Do you think that the priority for policy making should be on helping the maximum number of people rather than saving the maximum amount of money?
I'll say yes, but part of the thing for me is it's kind of almost that libertarian mentality. People should be able to, you know, if people worked really hard for their money and, you know, they're trying super hard to make ends meet, it's almost not fair to say, well, you need to go help them, even though they aren't working. You know what I mean? So you got to pick and choose your battles. It's not that I don't support welfare or universal health care. I just think that everybody should have to do their part first. So for welfare, I think you should have to work for welfare, or you should have to put in X amount of applications every week in order to be on welfare, stuff like that. It's about, you know.
You do.
I'm
You
saying,
do have to show that you're every week. You have to check in and show that you're applying for.
But it's not enforced properly.
Again, it sounds more like it's back to money again. Money is the important thing. Work and provide money and pay into it so that you can be entitled to it.
Yeah, because money is what gets people going, and people like me who have struggled, who worked really hard to be able to get to where they are. Money is how you get through life. Money is how you support your kids, how you make yourself a home, you know, and it's not, you know, until we can find a world where magically we have robots doing all the work and we don't have to do anything, you have to.
I think that people like yourself who work hard and get more, I have no problem with that. But I do have a problem with saying you can't have welfare, you can't have anything because you're not making any effort at all. We're all in the same society together. And to me, the larger picture is if you don't help people who really are out of sorts, really can't get the work, really can't put back into the system, and we just leave them out there, what happens to our society? Is this really the best kind of society to live in? This is not to me, that's not conducive to a society that's actually caring about people.
So my issue is the middle class struggle when you're not poor enough to receive help, but you're not poor enough to receive help, but you're not rich enough to be able to survive. It's the people in the middle that are getting screwed the most because they aren't getting tax they aren't getting taxed. They aren't doing their part. So it's the middle class suffering because they can't afford their needs, but they are being told, hey, you need to go help everybody else. And you need to give up your money that you worked for. That is the problem with the system. And that is why it's not fair.
Tax law coming up.
So see, to me, I'm hearing a lot of propaganda here.
Well, Angelo wanted to jump in. I'm curious to know.
Yeah.
Okay.
Angelo, what you got there?
For starters, Mr. Richardson, there's definitely benefits to socialized medicine. Anybody that has truly analyzed the topic and did their homework to say otherwise is ignorant. Okay, so there's that. Yes, there are benefits without question. 90% of my family lives in Italy. They have socialized medicine. There are benefits, but we also have to, along with the benefits, we also have to look at the things that are detrimental, things that are negative, if you will, with that particular system as well. So we can't just highlight the good and not talk about the bad either. So I just want to put that out there real quick. Okay, there are problems.
Nothing's perfect. I understand. I agree with you there.
My cousin lives in West Vancouver. He's a proud Canadian Italian, if you want to call it that, or however you want to put that.
Close to me then. Okay.
We've talked about this many times. Okay. What is the answer? As usual, if you ask me, is that it's usually something of a hybrid. Okay. We should have a public option. Okay. I have no problem, believe it or not, as a libertarian, as long as it's optional, with a public option. Okay. Everything should be about voluntary association when it comes to something like that. The government should put this in place. It would actually be a market. It would actually be a mechanism in the market that would have lower prices, believe it or not. Okay, so hear me out really quick. If the government were to implement a public option that is completely voluntary, okay, it would have, arguably saying, it would have the largest risk pool known in the industry. Okay, so when insurance companies put together plans, they talk about risk pools. Okay, that's when they sign up companies, X amount of employees. That's the reason why if you work for an employer here in the United States and that you're the company, you get enrolled in their insurance plan, and there's no worry about pre-existing conditions. Why? Because it's part of a risk pool. They take it in. They have statisticians and actuaries that do this, and they factor it in. Okay, so if the government did the same exact thing. All right. He said, listen, we're gonna cover pre-existing conditions and major catastrophe, which, by the way, those are the only things it should cover. You ask me personally. People would join the system. I would, even as a libertarian. I would say, you know what? Hey, if this is gonna cost me $40 a paycheck, but yet I know that if I get cancer, I get hit by a car, I have whatever major illness, I know that this is going to be covered till either A, I die, or B, I get better. Right? Those are the objectives. I would pay for that. Who wouldn't? Who wouldn't buy into that? Now, when it comes to, hold on, Ethan, let me get this through. Just hold your horses. Okay, that is something that is very viable. Okay, and it can happen. The government can put that in place and have it be voluntary. There would be enough of a risk pool in order to sustain itself. Now, they would have to have its own parameters. Okay, all right, there would have to be its own guidelines to make sure it doesn't completely collapse upon itself. But it can happen. Now, the insurance companies have a vested interest in this not happening. They don't want that to happen. It's the same reason why you're not allowed to buy insurance across state lines. Why is that? Think about that for a second. So that's what I'm saying. If we had a public option, if we were able to buy into it, even those of us that are low income, okay, especially right now, and by the way, out of anybody, Rick and I, anybody that has anything to say, excuse me, I mean to point fingers, if anybody has anything to say about what's happening in COVID right now, I haven't worked in 7 months because of government regulation, but I won't get into that, all right? I could sit here if I were for the fact that I was actually smart financially with my money for the last 5 years, I'd be in a shit ton of trouble right now. Sorry to swear. Okay, so there's that. Public option can happen. Not all socialized medicine is bad, but, and this I'll leave with this, there is not one, and Kendrick, fact check me on this one, I'm almost positive. If we're going to include China, then I'm wrong. But there is not one country that has our population size that has socialized medicine. If there is, show it to me, because I'm willing to wager that's not the case. So I'll leave you with that.
By the way, I'd like to introduce Kenneth to the panel as well. Kenneth, how are you?
What's up, Ethan? Hey, Ethan, we're gonna bring in 10 more people. What are we doing here?
We're doing a round table, bro.
Just to respond to Angelo, I think having a base healthcare system is very important that is available to everybody. And then if people want to pay more for private medicine on top of that, that's fine. I don't have a problem with that. Yeah. But that does not excuse them to not contribute to the public good. Because there could come a point where they stop paying for their private medicine and they're going to fall back to what? The public system again. The most important thing with this is not to leave people out. So am I correct in understanding what you're saying is that everybody would be having to pay into this, or with the hybrid system?
It would be voluntary. It would be voluntary. Okay. If you want to be
covered by taxes, then okay.
If you like to purchase, essentially, you'd be purchasing it from the government. The government would simply be putting forth a product and service into the marketplace that wasn't there before. Okay, now if that happens, think about this for a second. Okay, and again, I'm not saying I know anything. You said none of us are experts, but I mean, look, in a different life, I would have a degree in economics right now. Okay, I've read everybody from Marx to Dr. Kelton. Okay, I'm not bragging, but I am pretty versed in economics. I wish I would have went to university, but just because I have a degree doesn't mean I don't know what I'm talking about. So anyway,
right, I agree.
When you take a mechanism like this and put it to the marketplace, okay, it makes every other company react. It will bring down costs. It will. It has been proven so in many other industries. It's the reason why we don't pay $10,000 for a flat screen TV today when you could walk into Walmart and buy one for $200.
Okay, I'm not convinced that it would bring down costs. I've seen governments privatize services here in BC over the years, and every one of those services has more than doubled in price. One of the most recent examples is a ferry service, which is an extension of our highway. It used to be a Crown corporation. Now the cost of traveling on there is double what it used to be, and that was almost immediately. And they also are charging for parking everywhere now, even when you're there to pick somebody up for 20 minutes, whereas before they did all these little things. And when it's privatized, the capitalists get in there and they charge for nickel and dime for almost every little thing. We don't see prices go down. We see them go up. We also have limits here that we put federally on medication costs. And it's interesting, the pharmaceutical companies from the US and other countries will complain bitterly about this and try to lobby our government to remove those restrictions. But we don't. We keep it that way. So there's a maximum that they can charge for medications, for certain medications. And those companies, they threaten like they're not going to sell it here, but they continue to sell it here. Why? Because it's still immensely profitable for them.
Okay, I would have to. May I record, or do you want to say something, Ethan? I'm sorry.
No, I would actually like to circle back the conversation directly to Donald Trump and why we support him.
Okay.
Well, one of my issues, sorry, let me bring Kenneth back on. Well, Kenneth, can you hear us? Okay.
You're muted.
Yeah,
Kenneth.
I can hear. Okay. Sorry guys. I'm glad you did. I was just about to ask what all this had to do with the Donald.
Well, and thank you for bringing that circling back, because I do want to ask a question or read a comment from Facebook from RDC, who's watching, and his comment says, and I can't bring it on screen because it's on Facebook, unfortunately. And for those of you all that are watching on Facebook, again, please join us on YouTube, join the conversation and discussion here in the live chat, like and subscribe to the channel too as well. We're still building it. Listen, RDC says, why to support Trump? Because a Biden America is another step toward the destruction of the core foundation of what America was intended to be. The quote-unquote American dream will cease to exist. Is this the general consensus of why we support Trump?
Sorry, I kind of missed them. So the American dream would cease to exist if Donald Trump doesn't get elected. That's what
a Biden America is another step toward the destruction of the core foundation of what America was intended to be. The quote-unquote American dream will cease to exist.
I like it.
John?
I'm agreeing with that. Kenneth, we got Kenneth on here. What's Kenneth think?
I'm wondering how the American dream is defined in this context.
I was going to...
It's kind of important to define our terms before we just start agreeing to shit.
That works. Sure. So RDC, if you could switch over to YouTube, join the conversation, and let us know what you mean by the quote-unquote American dream. I do believe RDC is also in support of Trump, in favor of Trump, and voting for Trump. So in his impression, the American dream is something that's beneficial to every American in life, every American here. Kenneth, thanks for joining us.
John, Katie, I'd like to present you with like a real life situation. And one event that has pretty much in many ways changed how I view the world politically, and why I no longer agree with you guys with this me mentality. It's about me. It's not about anybody else. We are a civilized country. We can work together. Now, that being said, when I was younger, I started a business. It was successful. It was profiting. I was able to quit my full-time job. I was doing great. I had employees. Fast forward, my brother passed away. I went through a depression and I got epilepsy. My business went to shit. I could barely afford health care. I was on 10 plus medications a day at one point. Okay? Now, are you telling me that we should not help someone like me who put in his work, who busted his ass and was a victim of circumstances beyond his control?
Not at all. I'd like to, so in all of my statements, I would like to exclude anybody with major disabilities that cannot, be a member of society the normal way. There are a ton of people that unfortunately will not be able to work for welfare, that do have disabilities that prevent them of being able to do those kinds of things. And I do agree that those sorts of people do need help, but that's not what I'm referring to in a lot of my comments. And part of the reason why I do have this view is because I do believe people have the potential to do what they want. Me, I tell myself every day, the only reason I'm still a student is because, I wasn't motivated enough to get through it faster, or, I took a break because I wanted to help my family instead open up a business. When in reality, if I really wanted to work hard enough, I could have done both. I don't put the blame on anything else, but I don't have a health condition or, a major disability. I'm talking about perfectly able-bodied beings having the ability to do these things. We see people, people of the Black community that came from the worst neighborhoods that ended up buying a big mansion out there. These stories do exist. People have incredible potential. So that's where a lot of these ideas come from.
Ethan, I'll turn it over to you. We brought on Kenneth to join the discussion.
Sorry. What I would like to jump back to, if we could, because we don't have a lot of time left. John, give me your 3 top reasons why you're voting for Donald Trump. Be specific. Go.
Well, first off, Ethan, I'm sorry to hear about what you went through. That sucks, man. And honestly, I feel for you, buddy. And no person should go through that, right? But when you look at Biden, what's his plan? There is no plan. So you can argue the fact of all day of healthcare system and where we're at, and I'm not sure where this conversation the last 15 minutes has gone, but Biden has no plan either. So going on Trump and what we're looking at today is Trump did, from a metric standpoint, as Angelo laid out, has built one of the best economies that we have seen. So I'm going to say 1, economy. 2, Trump's foreign policy plan will be documented as probably one of the more successful foreign policies in terms of fighting China. Everyone has let China just cripple America for the last 30 and 40 years, manipulating the dollar, taking advantage of trade. Trump is the only one that has stood up to China. He has made new trade agreements with Japan, Australia, UK, NAFTA. So looking at his foreign policy plan, everyone thought which Trump was going to put us in more wars and blow up the world. In fact, Trump has got us out of wars and wants to continue to get us out of wars. So I'm going to say number 2, foreign policy. Number 3, I think changing my viewpoint a little bit here is I think we look at 2 candidates with completely different viewpoints. Freedom versus government control. And this country was founded upon freedom. This country was founded upon, hold on. It was founded upon. Oh, I thought, sometimes you get ready. You know what I mean? You get close to the mic. That's your MO.
I'm not saying a word, man.
Well, I just thought you were getting ready. All right, sorry. So, 3, I just think right now there's a sense of feeling of, well, if Biden gets back in office, are we going to be in more of a controlled situation with the government? And that's what I feel for Biden. And when he speaks like that, that's how I feel. And so I'm going to go with number 3, choice, and the choice of freedom. And those are my 3 main reasons why I have already voted for Trump.
All right. So 1 is economy, 2 foreign policy, and 3 freedom. Kenneth, may I ask your thoughts on that?
I mean, yeah, it's really easy to say that the economy is doing well without giving any thought whatsoever to what that actually means. For most Americans, wages aren't going up. Unemployment is down, but you get people who are underemployed. It seems to be sort of the trend right now. Good paying jobs are not, exactly materializing as a direct result of any policy from the Trump administration. For most Americans, if you were to ask them, what does it mean for the economy to be good? They'll talk about stocks being up, unemployment being down. But that doesn't change anything about how the average American is actually living. It doesn't change anything about the average American's circumstances. It's political buzzwords. It's bullshit. It's speech intended to persuade without any regard for what's actually true for most Americans. So that's the thought on the economy. Without defining your terms, it's easy to be like, the economy's good, and then just move on. But that doesn't tell us anything. When we talk about foreign policy, I would urge people to listen to what someone smarter than me has to say about it. I would point to General Mathews. When we talk about especially the use of our military, and I'm a Army veteran. I was in the 82nd Airborne for 4 years. Look at the withdrawal from Syria. Look at the investment of American lives and money into Syria, and then how we withdrew, and the response from service members, especially General Mathews, on that topic. You can read all about the failures of the administration's foreign policy. Again, it's easy to say, we've somehow put China in check by doing what? Eliminating TikTok. This is
Kenneth. First off, thank you for
when we talk about choices and saying something like Biden doesn't have a plan, that's also bullshit. You can go on Biden's website. You can read over 100 points of policy plans on there. The idea that the left doesn't offer solutions, that the left doesn't have a plan, is, again, this is speech intended to persuade without any regard for what's actually true. And anybody can go on Biden's website and see for themselves.
Kenneth, first off, thank you.
Those are the concise thoughts.
Okay, Kenneth, thank you for your service, bud, and I mean that. 2, Syria, I'm going to agree with you. I think it was a bullshit way of how we pulled out. I'm not going to disagree with you on that. But if you look at Trump's foreign policy as a whole, we've had a strong foreign policy under the Trump administration. You look at Biden. What has Biden done? Give me something successful Biden has done in 47 years. Someone. Because that still has an argument.
I'll do it. So, but first,
47 years. I'm not done. 47 years. What has Biden done? What has Biden done? And I don't want to go on his website and read shit. I want Biden to do action. Biden doesn't talk about it.
No, obviously.
Biden doesn't talk about it.
Jim, the more that you speak, the more clear it is. I'm sorry, John. The more that you speak, the more clear it is that you don't want to read shit. But you kind of have to know what you're talking about. On saying that we have a strong foreign policy doesn't tell anybody anything about anything. If you look at
you missed half of our conversation.
Position that America occupies in the world. But I'm addressing what you just said. So when you talk about a strong foreign policy, I mean, there's more than just military considerations. There are economic considerations, and there's also just a general sense of where we stand on the world stage. The office of the president has been diminished in the last 4 years, and in a way that hasn't happened really since Nixon. If we're going to talk about what Biden has done in 47 years, we can talk about, I mean, just off the top of my head, legislation. Like he spearheaded the Violence Against Women Act. There's something. He oversaw confirmations of Supreme Court justices. He blocked Jeff Sessions from being a federal judge, which that in itself probably helped a lot.
He wants to pack this.
I mean, you can look at Biden's legislative record, but that would involve reading some stuff.
You gave me one thing. You gave me one thing. One thing.
That was like
and
2
I
or
still
3.
want to fact check that. It was one. You just gave me one thing.
That was like 2 or 3.
About what Biden has done, spearheading women's rights. One thing.
Let me jump in here and ask you this, because I think
you asked for you literally asked for one thing. You literally said, "Can anybody give me one thing?" As if the guy doesn't have 47 years of a record. But
hey,
again, you could see his record, but you'd have to read some stuff.
Let me jump in. Go ahead, Katie.
I was gonna say I wanted to address us talking about Biden, having this list of things and caring about all these different things. Biden is one of those people that seem to say, oh, well, I care about this now if it'll get me voters. The same way, him and Obama were harshly against gay marriage. And it's like, oh, no. We support them because the public supports it and we need voters. Those are things that kind of irritate me. I want to see somebody that's actually going to have action, not just people that are going to change their mind and say they support something, but probably not really mean it.
So a few things I want to, if I can jump in and just ask a question about, did anyone watch well, before I get to that, Katie, to your point, I personally would have to say as a gay man, if they were strongly against gay marriage and then came around to supporting gay marriage, people change, it benefits, fine, right? What is the harm in that? I'm grateful that maybe we'll say saw the light in this case. If you're using that as a way to say that they're kind of flimsy, I don't know if that's really the correct vantage point of what they did when they changed their minds. However, let me ask you all this: when we talk about supporting Trump or Biden, just out of curiosity for you all as Trump supporters, specifically Katie and John, does that mean or does that incorporate that you support Pence as well? How strong is the VP in your perspective of supporting Trump? Where does the vice president sit? And what did you all think of the debate?
Yeah, I think VP is important, right? But I think a lot of people naturally look at the presidency first, and then looking at the VP, right? The president makes the policies, VP somewhat follows. But yeah, I suppose Rick, to answer your question, I haven't really looked at Pence the way you kind of just described it. I'm looking more at Trump, in his first term, and I was looking at Trump more in his second term.
Okay.
Angelo, you had a question for Kenneth.
Yes. So, Kenneth, did you vote in the primary, in the Democratic primary?
I did.
Okay, was Biden your choice or was it somebody else?
So I'm a federal employee. I cannot endorse candidates or disclose who I voted for.
Okay. All right. Well,
I think if what you're asking me is if Biden was my first choice, I think I can safely answer that and not violate the Hatch Act. No, he was not my first choice.
Okay. All right. Fair enough. All right. I got it. There's enough implication there that I can understand that one. Okay. Fine.
Yeah.
So that also sheds a little bit of light, a little bit more, and I get it. I'm getting more of the sense of just from the comments that you've made that Biden, you're defending Biden more in the sense of, well, he's not Trump, and I have to go with this particular person. But I'm getting the sense that you have some other ideas and thoughts about who should actually be the Democratic nominee.
Well, I support our system. I think that we had a primary, and the guy who should be the candidate is the candidate because that's who got picked.
Okay, so I'm asking this question for a reason. Well, you're a federal employee, so I don't know, maybe you can't answer this. Is it not? Would you agree with this statement? Yes or no? There is corruption in our government, and it lies on both sides, both the Democratic and Republican Party. Yes or no?
Without hesitation, yes.
Okay, thank you. Would it also, because it seems like you possess at least a modicum of logic and rational thought, is it also fair to say that someone that's been in office for 47 years, if you're a gambling man, would say has a little something to do with that? Did we lose him?
My phone's breaking up. I hate that I joined while I'm away from Wi-Fi.
You broke up.
Perfect.
I can still hear
timing.
I can hear you guys. I don't know if you can hear me.
Okay.
Yeah, we can hear you. We couldn't hear anything you said just now.
I'll ask the question a little more succinctly. Would you yes or no? And I hate asking yes or no questions, but we have to ask directly, if you will. Joe Biden, is he not a part of that corrupt system?
I'm going to go with yes.
So
yeah, I'm going with yes. Should be yes.
Okay.
Prove your point.
All right, I'm going to say that Kenneth is saying yes. I think.
No, we're not going to say that. We can't.
Right, we can't say that.
Ethan just doesn't want him to say yes. But
Okay, fine. All right, fine. I figured he's a federal employee. He can't answer. Okay, fine. So
say
I'm getting to a broader point here. Okay, I'm getting to a broader point. All right, I'm going to come to it right now. I understand for that reason why people vote for Trump.
Wait, is who
Okay.
part of the Trump system?
Biden.
Shoot, he's coming in and out. So
Okay, so
my point.
question, absolutely. I will not deny that Biden and Trump are both part of a corrupt system. You will get no argument from me there.
Well, if I may, okay, and again, I mean, if I may, Katie's had a decent amount of time to speak about this topic. John has as well. Allow me, if I may. Okay, here's why I think that people, from a third party standpoint, why people vote for Trump. Okay, they look at the establishment that exists, and this is why they voted for him in 2016. Okay, and honestly, there were a couple of candidates that really should be in this place, and this country would be better off. But we won't get into that. They voted for him because they looked at him like he was an outsider. They looked at him as somebody who was not a career politician. Here's the funny part. What I thought, this is why I can't wrap my head around. Those of us that are even at different ends of the political spectrum, both agree on this, that we think our system is corrupt.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay.
Of course.
So is it not easy to understand? I mean, is it really that difficult of a stretch to understand why somebody voted for Trump in 2016 and then yet again is going to vote for them in 2020? I don't think there's really anything else to discuss. Joe Biden is the establishment. He is. Trump is not. He's not a politician. He's been president for 4 years. He held no other public office. Anything that is going on corrupt-wise within our government right now has zero to do with Donald Trump and everything to do with Joe Biden.
No, this is okay. These are just broad claims.
Ethan.
Fine, I will throw a bullseye if you want to throw a bullseye, but I need to be able to speak.
Well,
Assertions.
fast. He is a politician now.
So right, let's clarify. He is a politician now.
He is a
Okay, he's a politician now, yes.
part of the problem.
Wait, but so Angelo, to your point, and I think that what we have to look at here when you make that claim that Joe has been part of this corrupt system for some odd years, we'll call it 47.
47, Rick.
That's
47.
fine. We'll call it 47. In the position that he's in, he's had the ability, and this is where I think we as an American, as a country, are falling short. What we're missing here. We have a leader in office who continues.
No, I'm not, Kenneth. I'm not making the outsider argument.
Yes, you did. That's
No.
exactly what you did.
Angelo had the point. Angelo.
Listen. What I'm saying. We have someone in position right now who has not been a politician and has polarized the entire fuck out of our country. We have someone who's running in office who has at least had history and experience with working across the aisle and working within the two-party system currently. Now, Angelo, to your point earlier, if I can just wrap this up here with this point here, when you say that we need to introduce this third party and voting for this third party will get the recognition of this two-party system, yes, that could potentially be true, but this might not be the election to do that.
Okay, I could, if I may reply to that. Okay,
Sure.
Really simple. And Kenneth, I'm not making for the eighth time. I'm not making the outsider argument. I'm not. It's simply taking what you observe, okay, and putting it forward. I'm not supporting it. I'm just trying to explain it. That's it. I don't support it. Anyway, what?
Kenneth was right. You did make an argument that he was the outsider. That's exactly what you
Actually,
just said.
the way I understood Angelo, let me just say, I think what I understand you said was that he appealed as somebody who's not from the inside. People saw him as an outsider. He was perceived.
Yes. Thank you, Richard or Randolph. Sorry.
Yeah.
Yes, Mr. Richard, you're absolutely correct. I'm not saying that's right or wrong. I'm just saying this is what people have said. This is the image that has been portrayed, and that is what they're going with. I'm not saying it's right or wrong.
Oh, okay. All right. Thank you.
There's supposed to be some new information released about the killing of bin Laden or something. I heard a rumor that it was sent to like media and Trump or something. It's probably too soon to talk about it on a video like this, but I was told the other day that they're supposed to be releasing new information on the bin Laden killing. I'm sure we could all remember that it was a really odd situation.
I read it. Yeah.
And somebody said recently that there's supposed to be new information coming out about it that would tie Biden, a bunch of other people. So there's a lot of reasons that I don't want to vote for Biden. Even if Trump wasn't running, I would not vote third party because I do not want Biden as my president.
Why? He's innocent. He didn't know about his son's dealings in Ukraine. That's
Okay.
It's clean. He's clean, Ethan.
He's weak. He's a weak.
Go ahead, Angelo.
One of the things from
So,
here.
sorry, you had asked a question. Could you repeat it, please, and then I'll answer it?
Well, looking from the outside here in Canada, when we saw Trump originally before he's getting elected and during all that time, and then he's talking about doing, like, he's encouraging people to hurt other people at his rallies and says he'll pay all their legal fees and things like that. He seemed like kind of a maniac. And then he's talking, bragging about grabbing female anatomy and things like that. Like, this is the kind of stuff that we just don't expect from the president position. It was a very strange situation. And I'm thinking, if the Democratic president nominee was acting that way, the Republican politicians would be calling that out for him, and they'd be so upset about that. And yet when people get upset about Trump doing that, the pushback is fierce. It's the polarization in the U.S., I think, has been there for a long time, and it's very centered around political parties, because there's two major parties to choose from, and all other votes are considered a waste by most people, it seems. We have 5 parties here in Canada, so it looks different to us here.
How many major political parties are there in Canada?
5.
Okay, thank you.
So, the question was, it was and maybe I should rephrase this, the exploiting of the polarization by the current administration or current leadership versus someone who has had experience working across the aisle, working within, uniting this two-party system and getting some things done.
If I may, Rick, though, just 47 years as a senator, okay, from Delaware, okay. Sure. He is the problem, Rick. He is the problem. Him, Representative House Speaker Pelosi, Mitch McConnell, and anyone else that has been a part of the system for 30 plus years. They are the problem.
I agree.
Okay. I'm sorry, I don't buy. And Kenneth kind of made a comment about that he's been a guy working against the corruption in government. Yeah. You'll have to cite that one for me, because he was the main author of the 1994 crime bill. Okay.
You're absolutely right.
Said that last
I know this, which again, we've said this before on the show. Neither party has Black Americans' best interest at heart. We know that, but they also don't have a great predominant portion of American citizens' best interest at heart. Government wants to protect government, power wants to protect power, and leadership wants to stay where it is.
Right.
Now, again, when you talk about it, again, Angelo, to your point, when you talk about introducing this third-party system or a third-party system, why do you think, just again, in from your perspective or your opinion, why this is the election to continue that voice?
So this is something common that, us as libertarians come across, and we come across it every single election cycle, right? And my retort to that would actually be, and I don't like answering a question with another question, but do tell, when was the last election that wasn't very important, that wasn't drastic? We said the same thing in 2016. I heard the same exact propaganda from both sides, and every single election since I've been born. In fact, the only time that I don't remember ever hearing that was in 1984. I was 4 years old, given, but when Reagan was running for a second term against Walter Mondale, and he got smoked. Okay, and Reagan won 49. Since then, every single election, this is the scare tactic, the fear mongering that they do on purpose, and they collude when they do this. This is the election that matters most. This is the election that matters most.
I would disagree.
Pardon?
I would disagree. I mean, given I was young, but I mean, were people actually going to vote for like Romney against Obama?
Romney was dog shit. God, Romney was
like there were definitely.
That's not the point. Hold on, that's not the point. The point is that the message they put out there every single time, and they did, because trust me, I paid close attention to politics and have since I was 18 years old. They said the same shit in 2012 when Romney was running against Obama. This is the fate of our country. This is the direction, the future of our country. The American dream will die. I've heard this 1,000 times.
Angelo's right.
Hey,
We've
Angelo,
all heard
let
it.
me ask you a question about this two-party system then. I only see this I really only see this third-party system come into play or communication, or we discussed it during the presidential election. Do you look at the third-party system, the Libertarian system, or the Libertarian Party or the Green Party for local elections or Senate elections or any
I do
other
if there's a candidate. Yeah, if there's a candidate, I do. We don't have a Libertarian running in, every state and local election. But what I do in that scenario, it's a good point actually, Rick, is that I try to look at who those candidates are that directly affect where I live, which is now Arizona, as you know. And look, not all Democrats are leftists. Not all Republicans are far right right wing. So there are people that actually are close to centrist. So I'll look at their policies and I'll say, all right, well, which one locally makes more sense for what it is that I would like to see happen.
So then why is it such a big deal now in the presidential election for you?
Well, it's such a big deal now in the presidential election because we're talking about the country as a whole, which affects us all. Okay, we all can vote for our own individuality if you're on individual rights and concerns locally because it has a direct effect on us. Now, if we're talking about our nation as a whole, the fact that we have a two-party system in itself is the reason why we have the issues.
Sure.
Okay.
Agreed.
This is why we had such a divisive atmosphere right now within our political system. And now here's the funny part is that, look, politics has always bled into social life. I mean, to a certain extent, right? But at this point in 2020, this is the most I've ever seen. Look, ESPN, okay, never covered anything to do with the presidential election or anything political up until last year, maybe the year before. Rick, you've been watching ESPN probably just as long as I have, and everyone else here. I don't ever remember ESPN talking about politics. Period. I don't even think they would talk about who won the presidency. Now they do.
That's because racism comes after.
We're kind of going all over the place now, and we are at the 2-hour mark. So we are well over time. And as much as I want to keep going, all of our brains, at least mine, does get tired. So, anyways, real quick,
So, yeah.
Katie, in 1 minute or less, is there anything you would like to say?
I don't know. I guess I'll say it one time because it's a thing. At the end of the day,
yes, there it is.
Hey, Katie, I'm so proud of you. Well done. Well done.
but Trump gives me a better future than Biden does. He has a bit of strength that a president does need that Biden lacks. I do support that he wants people to immigrate into this country the right way. I do like that he does come out with all these different acts and policies that the media doesn't talk about for people in need, like people that are victim of healthcare fraud, and like human trafficked people. So at the end of the day, I will be supporting Trump.
Thanks.
Oh,
Katie.
we know. All right, John, minute or less.
No, I've said it already. You guys know.
Yeah.
Economy, foreign policy, freedom of choice.
I really want to circle back.
Mr. Richard.
Leave that alone.
Come on, he's from Canada. He's from Canada.
You're wondering what I think? Oh, I think given how the relationship has deteriorated between Canada and the U.S., that
John,
under Trump, the NAFTA agreement and other things like that are a concern. The attitudes there and a lot of extra effort and work went into that for nothing. And then there's the executive from Huawei who was arrested, and then later Trump says he's surprised that we did that, and if he was us, he wouldn't have done that in the first place. We're getting mixed messages. It's just the whole thing, like, dealing with that is quite a concern. I'm thinking we've had enough of them. It'll be nice to see change.
Because your president's weak.
John.
We don't have a president. We have a prime minister.
Prime minister, whatever. He's a bozo. But
we take it seriously here.
All right. Well, you know what? Hey, have fun in Canada, okay? And we'll be voting here in the United States. But appreciate your opinion.
Well, we hope for the best for the U.S. That's why we have these concerns.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Appreciate it.
And we think that Trump is not probably the best.
Okay, well, appreciate your opinion. You're not a United States citizen.
And I will say there are Canadians here who disagree with me and like Trump as well.
Their spectrum's there.
Super. Thanks, Randolph. Appreciate your opinions, bud.
Go ahead, Angelo.
Yeah, I appreciate yours too. That's why I'm glad to be on this panel. Thank you.
Well, you're in Canada. Not sure why.
Let that go.
I'm in Canada because I was born here.
Yeah, thanks. Stay there.
That's why.
You can stay there. All right.
All right.
Have fun.
All right, guys. All right.
John,
Okay.
Do me a favor. This
Anyway.
American.
He said he didn't know why I'm in Canada, so.
I don't want to be
We
in
had
Canada.
a great conversation. Let's wrap it up on the same note.
Angelo, minute or less. I'm sorry.
Thank you very much. First off, Mr. Richardson, it's always, in my opinion, it's always great to have just another voice in the room. I agree with John to a certain extent. You don't vote here. There are some things to that, but regardless, it's always great to hear another voice. That's all. Different of opinion. That's all. I like it. In a minute or less, you can't change the system if you continue to vote for it. Okay. The only way that we're going to find real change is with new ideas, diversity of thought. And in order to do that, we have to remove the financial aspect out of our political system. I think we can all agree upon that. Money corrupts. It does. Absolute power corrupts. Absolutely. And just because this is related to the show, obviously, if I only had two choices and I had to choose, right? Gun to my head, I had to choose. Unfortunately, I would have to vote for Trump.
I know. That's why you were invited here.
But as we have more than two parties, everyone, we have more than two political parties in this country. I have another option. I'm going to vote my conscience, and my conscience tells me to vote for my libertarian candidate.
Yeah, damn it, Angelo. Damn that third party option.
If Tulsi Gabbard was the selected nominee for the Democratic Party, I'd probably agree. I'd probably go third party and tell people, hey, start voting third party because it wouldn't matter as much. But I am terrified for Biden to win. So I can't risk letting Biden win. That's really the big reason that
by design. They do that by design.
I do hope the U.S. gets more than two parties in the future, to major parties to choose from. I think that would be very beneficial to the U.S.
Randall, you have 5 parties.
I'm confident that Canada does have multiple options. And the first time I came on this show, that was my number one thing. No American is actually a Democrat or a Republican, and we need to evolve. But right now, these are our options, and this is the way the world's working.
Yeah, I'm voting for Kamala Harris right now. So I guess.
Sorry, Rick, may I?
Please, Ethan, go ahead.
Okay, John. See, I there's something you don't realize.
Uh-oh.
America does not operate in a vacuum, and what we do impacts the world around us. Thus, Randolph Richardson's opinion is just as valid as our own.
It's not. He's from Canada. He's not voting.
Country.
No, it's not.
Yes. Okay.
It's not.
I'm sorry. People.
Hey, well, listen,
Randolph, I'm sorry, but you
what,
being here is the most pointless box window I'm looking at in this entire screen. No offense, bud. I'm not sure why you're invited on this show because
American
because you hate Trump. Because he hates Trump, but he's from Canada. I don't care for your opinion.
There's something I do want to say.
Do we have to listen to Randolph?
Stop.
I wanted to say I really do like this group of people on the video, because everyone has been really nice about letting everyone else talk. I feel like we're having a constructive, meaningful conversation without people interrupting each other. It's really refreshing. So thank you, everyone. And Katie, go ahead.
So something that does, and by all means, Randolph, you can have an opinion. I'm not telling you can't. It's the problem I've noticed with people that I am friends with that don't live in this country. They're very misinformed on how things are going. Their media portrays Trump in a way that's not actually the case. They portray this country in a way that isn't the case. And I could see that's where John's frustration comes from, is a lot of people in other countries are heavily misinformed, and they're like, oh yeah, fuck Trump, he's the worst. I've heard all about it. That's like, no, that's not how it is at all. I play a lot of video games with a lot of people all over the world, so I hear all sorts of opinions from all over the world.
That gaming community. All right, listen, let's go ahead and wrap this up, guys. I
think Katie's right about those points, and it's important here. There's people who are uninformed about our local politics, and I bet you find people in the U.S. are uninformed about politics as well.
So I thank you for that.
But they are living in it.
Let's go ahead and wrap this up, guys. Thank you very much for being on in Black and White. It was great having another conversation about why to support Trump or the third party. For those of you that have tuned in and joined us in the comment section, thanks again to you. Remember, go ahead and like this video, subscribe to the channel, and consider becoming a patron. Help us continue to build content that we can bring to you in these discussions. Next week, we're looking to have people of color who support Trump. So if we can find some people there to have that conversation with.
Thank you, everyone, and a special thanks to John.
Bye, Mr. Mathews.
Have fun in Canada, bud.
All right.
One last thing, I
Thank
just
you,
want to
Randolph. I appreciate it.
thank you for everybody in my motorcycle group for watching and supporting me as well. I wore the shirt and everything.
Oh, is that what that is? That's the motorcycle group that you're in? Somebody asked about this shirt.
Yeah,
Yeah,
Yeah.
okay. Oh, wow.
Nice.
Great.
Almost shaped like a motorcycle engine. Yeah.
All right, guys. Well, listen to you all again, Angelo, Mr. Randolph, John, and Katie. Thank you very much for joining us on the show. We really appreciate you and your comments.
Ethan, Rick, you guys are the best.
A good
Minus your policy views, you're the best. Love you.
I agree with John on that.
Let's have an economics show one time. How a little economics? How about that? That'd be fun.
That
All
might
right,
have to
I'm
be a
gonna
thing.
take you guys off screen. Actually, real quick, John, Katie, Angelo, you don't have YouTube channels. Is that correct? Okay. And Randolph, where can everyone? Sorry, obviously you guys can't promote where you're at because you don't have channels. Randolph, please, where can people check you out at?
Oh, okay. So with Canadian Atheists, you can find out more about us at www.canadianatheists.ca. I also have a YouTube channel at www.youtube.com/Randolph Richardson. And remember, that's Randolph spelled with an F. Thank you.
All right, guys. Thank you so much.
Bye, everyone.
Thanks, guys.
All right. So, well, Rick, that was a heck of an episode. I have a headache.
2 hours and 15, over 2 hours and 15 minutes. Wow.
Yes.
Hey, and thanks to all of you all in the chat that have been hanging in there with us through the show. It looks like we had quite a few people both on Facebook and on YouTube. So we really, really appreciate you as well. Tune in next Wednesday, again, as we continue the conversation. If you happen to know someone who's Black, Indigenous American, or a person of color who is supporting Trump, feel free to send them our way so that they can be a part of the conversation too as well. Any last thoughts there, Ethan?
Yeah, one of my favorite takeaways of this, and John hit the nail on the head when he said, I don't want to read shit. I mean, bam, there's the problem right there. You have to read. So,
well,
but,
you know what?
Sorry.
Speaking of reading, no, I'm just going to say, speaking of reading, big thanks to Kendra Pennington for fact-checking for us this evening. Kendra, we really appreciate you, and I know that there was a lot that you had to run around to check, but thank you very much for that too.
Awesome. All right. Well, as long as hang on. Okay. As long as there's racism to fight.
They'll always be in black and white. Have a good night, everyone.